Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? My name is Mike Dewan here at the Region Sports Network, joined alongside me, Jay Simmons. It's Thursday evening, Jay.
Yes, it
That
is.
means it's Region Football Weekly coming to you live from Athletic Performance Factory. Jay, our first week together was in the books. We'll talk about a game that we were at. But, Jay, how we doing?
Doing great. I love getting back into the saddle, getting back out there, getting to games and being live at a game. It felt good and a lot of adrenaline on the field.
First off, we'll talk about our scores from the Week 2 action. We'll start it off with the lone game that was played on Saturday as our fourth-ranked Andrean 59ers won that one 13-0. Jay, we could actually maybe take a little pause on this game to see Andrean. These two teams have played each other in high-level games, and again, another just fantastic out-of-conference game for Andrean. Hey, bouncing off of that first week loss to Maryville to win that game against a tough Lures Knights team, that's promising.
Yeah, they helped us satisfy their questions a little bit in the backfield at the quarterback position. So I think Coach Skinner's got them headed in the right direction. Hey, when you play somebody like the Andrean in week 1, it's always tough to bounce back. But the biggest change and biggest personnel moves around are from week 1 to week 2. So it's interesting to see how they handled it, and they bounced back big time.
Andrean moves to 1-1 on the year before entering conference play too as well. Jay, no better time than right now, of course. But again, some still out of conference games, so we got to kind of cycle through. Another NCC team took on the Bishop Chatard Trojans, and Hanover Central lost that one 49-7. Hanover we'll talk about here later in the show. Bowman Academy gets off to a 2-0 start. I believe it's their first since I think it's the 2017 season. David Nelson was the head coach of that. But Gary Richardson is the new head coach of Bowman Academy. 28-16 was the final score. 2 thumbs up for Bowman so far. A 2-0, that's something that, again, this team want to win this last year, Jay.
Yeah, and, hey, when you get 2-0, all of a sudden those practices are going a little bit quicker. Everybody's got a little pep in their step. Everybody's running onto the field, grabbing the equipment. Hey, they're fired up. So, ride the wave a little bit.
Crown Point took the trip down I-65 to take on the Pike Red Devils. Got the win there 21-0. The Highland Trojans got the win over the Whiting Oilers 28-13. A big shout out to RSN's own Jimmy McCormick. His son got some big time minutes at the quarterback position, made his varsity debut. Aaron McCormick, sophomore quarterback, to do that, get their first one under center. A lot of weightlifting kind of off your shoulders there, Jay. Hammond Central gets the loss against TF South. They dropped to 0-2. That final score was the Red Wolves 42 and the Hammond Central Wolves 12. Moving on, Jay, we'll pause on our first game, one game that was on the Region Sports Network that featured our third-ranked Hobart Brickies 52, the Portage Indians 21. This game was, I believe, it was 15-14 after the first quarter, Jay, and Hobart from the second and third quarter really kind of opened this thing up. And Jay, this is a team that, although the second week was kind of reserved for Maryville, this is still, to see what Hobart's doing, and yes, we're not going to discredit who's on their schedule. They got one goal in mind. But Hobart 2-0, their first time since 2018. Things are clicking so far for Eric Schreiber and his Brickies.
Yeah, and you know what? You look at that game, they had 478 yards total offense, 5 takeaways. I think, you catch Portage right now at a bad time. They're sort of struggling to, get out of the box and find themselves a little bit with all the coaching changes. So it's going to take them a little bit of part of the season, but hey, you got to take advantage of it while you can if you're the Brickies, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to love coming out 2-0 red hot. So just, again, another team 2-0, ride the wave.
Rolling right in the conference play. I believe they take on Munster back at the Brickyard. We'll talk more about Hobart as we kind of get into our Angenberg home improvement top 10. Keeping it rolling, the Low Red Devils respond with the first win in the Casey McKim era, take on a Duneland team on the LaPorte Slashers and get the win there 34-6. A big win for Coach McKim and RDP. A game that we must, I think, kind of stop on, Jay. One of the 2 Indiana versus Illinois games in the Duneland Conference, and this one went down to the wire. That second-ranked Maryville Pirates took on the state powerhouse Loyola Academy Ramblers, and Maryville took them to the limit, Jay. The final score was 21-14 in favor of that team from Illinois. But us here on the Region Sports Network, where we're repping the Indiana teams, there is a lot to take away from what Maryville had in those 4 quarters.
Yeah, and I think one has got to be how well their defense played.
Yeah.
They shut them out for 3 quarters. Same thing with Maryville. Nobody scored until the 4th quarter, so it seemed like it took everybody's offense a lot of time to adjust to how the defenses were playing against each other. And you had all the points scored besides a safety by Loyola in the 4th quarter, so an exciting finish.
Yeah, in all honesty, would you say? I mean, do you expect a? I mean, Loyola scored again super late in the game to kind of give them this win, but I mean, a 7 point loss. You can't get much of a more quality loss than that. But were you surprised at all by this outcome and how much Maryville kind of hung in there?
Yeah, I was very surprised. Usually Loyola Academy comes in here and just rolls teams left and right, and they came in, retooling from last
Yeah.
year, and then also it's their first game, so they had probably a lot of Friday night jitters going on. So Maryville caught them at the right time.
Maryville drops to 1-1 again. Loyola, that being their first game. Although they don't matter to us
Yeah,
much anymore, they get off to that 1-0 start. Good luck to them going forward, I guess. The seventh-ranked Michigan City Wolves responded to a big-time Week 1 win and kind of a letdown in Week 2 against the Lafayette Jefferson Broncos. 29-46 was the score in favor of that team from Lafayette Jefferson for Michigan City to um, just to kind of see how kind of they respond from that. I mean, riding high from that Week 1
right.
game, Jay, you and I kind of talked about it's kind of a tale of two games, I guess, in these first 2 weeks for Michigan City.
Michigan City, they played down a couple classes for their first week, and now all of a sudden they're playing even class. So it's a step up for them, and it gives them an idea of what they need to do in terms of adjustments moving forward in the Dual Conference. So it'll be fun to see what they can do to right the ship from Week 2 to Week 3.
So Michigan City drops to 1-1, a team we'll talk about here later in the show. A top 10 matchup we had on the Region Sports Network, Jay. Probably one of the games we could say top games in the region. Going back to Week 2, 19-20 finish in favor of our 8th-ranked at the time, the Chesterton Trojans. They defeated the 9th-ranked Morton Governors. A game again that went down to the wire. Had just a little bit about whatever you could kind of ask for. Morton again. Great performance by their freshman quarterback Amari Price. Had a lot of dynamic plays to some quality pieces he has on the boundary, and Chesterton gets back to that one-dimensional football we kind of talked about, at least offensively. And hey, Andrew Covea took the term kind of carrying the load, putting the team on your back to kind of, again, the typical standard that we've seen all last year.
Yeah, 160 yards for Covea, a touchdown. But them moving forward, they've got to figure out what they're going to do in the passing game. I know they got a sophomore quarterback, Boyd, but they've got to figure out, because if you're one-dimensional in the Dual Conference, unless you've got 5 D1 guys up front, you are not going to move the ball on a consistent basis in the Dual Conference. So they've got to figure out what they can do offensively to spread the ball around and try various things.
Big shout out to Mace Redmond, too, the kicker for Chesterton. He drove the kick from, I believe it was 33 yards, and I watched the film on this before he got here, Jay. That was good from about 45 to 50 yards. I recommend taking a look at that. That ball had plenty of room to sail, but I guess to kind of close the book on this one, this was a game that was 36 to 23 in favor of Chesterton last year, and that game was played at Morton. And kind of a similar game script to where Chesterton had a lot of success running the ball, but Jay, to kind of shut the book on this was. Seeing kind of Morton play this game close at enemy territory, what does that what does the results say about either squad? Is this the Chesterton team similar to last year's squad, or is this Morton team, hey, from what we're seeing, they're playing games close. They beat Portage handily last week, 2 dueling opponents, or, is this Morton team maybe on the upswing?
I think Morton's definitely on the upswing. You're playing 2 dual conference teams, school from Hammond. They're playing up class. I think this is a good tone for them moving forward throughout the rest of the season.
Definitely excited to see kind of how they fare. One piece that Jack Miller and I talked about on the wrap-up show is one player that went down from Morton, apparent knee injury, Cameron Miller Jr., Kentucky offensive line commit. Hopefully that's a piece you got to have, protecting your quarterback's blind side, especially when you have a freshman. So hoping he's back out on the field on Friday, and if not this Friday, hopefully sooner rather than later, Jay. Moving things forward here, my Munster Mustangs lost. Griffith just putting up points once again here, Jay, 58 to 20. That team, I feel bad for the scoreboard operator at these games. Scoreboard operators, watch out when the Griffith Panthers come to town, or I'm sure the one at the Boneyard they got right now. I'm sure they're accustomed to putting points up on the board for this team.
Yeah, Griffith is just clicking on all cylinders. Phil Mason in his 3rd season there, so let's see what they got. They got a big test coming up.
That's for sure.
We're going to talk a little bit later about.
That's going to be a great game. Bishop Knoll Warriors, they got their first win in the Rick Good era. I believe we said things differently at the wrap-up show, so we apologize. Bishop Knoll got the win over Osceola Grace, 45 to 21, a big first win for Coach Good. Calumet off to 2-0. Our producer Justin Cole is happy, clapping his hands behind the camera. 36-14 over the River Forest Ingots. Calumet playing some good football. A team we'll talk about here a little bit later. The Boone Grove Wolves had a comeback victory over the South Central Satellites. That game was 27-23 in favor of the Wolves, who moved to 1-1. Satellites dropped to 0-2. A game we'll pump the brakes on. Our second of two, Indiana versus Illinois opponents here. Matchups we can say. Valparaiso gets off to their first 0-2 start, Jay, since 2018, dropping a tough one against Brother Rice. And I think kind of the first thing here, Jay, with Valparaiso is this is a very, very tough out-of-conference schedule.
Yes,
and so far it is kind of shown in these first two contests.
No, and we talked about it early on. You know, Valparaiso lost a lot of their offensive line, and they had a defense that was coming back that needed to be retooled. And it seems like the defense is doing okay, but you know, Brother Rice is a darn good team, and don't giving up 43 points. But offensively, they've got to figure it out. They've got to figure out what they're going to be, what they're going to hang their head on. They're going to run the ball, they're going to pass the ball, they're going to try and mix it up, but they've got to get that offensive line and everything going, because I know they lost a lot of big pieces last year from graduation. They had a big group of offensive linemen and a big group of seniors.
Now, this is, again, unfamiliar territory for Bill Marshall and Valparaiso. How do you flush it as a player? You get to a start that, I mean, from the history of this program, again, they've won countless sectionals in a row under Bill Marshall. And they always have this standard. And obviously, again, there's still a ton of the regular season left, but it's flushing this, Jay, as a player, is what, you know, the term kind of gets thrown around. Where do you kind of go from here if you're a Valparaiso player?
Well, I think Valpo, you can't hang your head. You've got another 7 tough games in the Doolin Conference. You've got to come out and battle and work through it and try and put the pieces together. This is a work in progress for Valpo. I think by the time they figure it out mid-season, then they're going to be rock and rolling. Once it comes, Coach Marshall likes to peak right at the end of the season and get going and get going into the playoffs.
That's when it matters most. Westside gets the win over East Chicago Central. I believe that game required an overtime period, 28-22 in favor of the Cougars. But big shout out to the Cardinals. They're playing games a lot closer in this year in the Corey Bailey area. Our second to last game, the 10th ranked Wheeler Bearcats avenged their loss last year. Wheeler, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but 33-7, a big win against the Kankakee Valley Cougars. And Jay, finally a game that you and I were both at, a game that was on the Region Sports Network. Lake Central welcomed in a team from Michigan, a team they saw last year, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, and the final score of 30 for the team at from Michigan and 7 for the Lake Central Indians. Jay, this was I think kind of one of the keys going into the game was Lake Central. Hey, you got to attack quick, because this team just got off a bus. They just came from Michigan, and you have that advantage of walking out of the school and, hey, the burial ground's right in your backyard. That did not seem like the case for 4 quarters here this past Friday night.
They seem to be doing okay defensively and offensively. I know Grand Rapids took that opening drive. It was a 6-minute drive, I think 6 minutes and 13 seconds, and they just slowly, methodically moved the ball down the field. Lake Central battled them all the way, fought hard with them, but it just seemed like Grand Rapids had their first game going. They had everything going. I mean, it was like clockwork out there. They were, whenever they needed to pass, they were able to throw. When it was 3rd down and long, they were able to complete. And Lake Central had them in several 3rd down and longs and 4th down and shorts and weren't able to stop them. So, that's one of the keys right there, I think, is Lake Central's short yardage defense and 3rd and long defense has really got to step it up. And they, what they did, they ended up in the 3rd and 4th quarters, they blitzed a lot and they got burnt over that. Offensively, I think their first play was a 22-yard gain, and that was one of their best plays of the day.
Yeah, that was kind of leading me to my next point, because, Lake Central's 7 points came from the defense. It was a fantastic pick six that happened to be the play of our game. But the offense as well, after a dominant rushing attack versus Munster in the opener, which I think they ran for well over 400 yards. We got the stats today, and I believe that number was under 100 in game number 2. How to respond for this offense that still we saw both quarterbacks, Wes Lodge and Cam Reddick, who got the bulk of the action, but still some things to figure out for that unit, I think, as well, Jim.
That's right. They got to figure out, all right, is Cam Reddick going to be the guy carrying the ball? Do they want to put Wes Lodge in there at quarterback and then put Cam at the running back spot? That might be an interesting way of looking at it. You got 2 quarterbacks, 2 guys that can throw out there. I might think about doing something like that. Just to shake it up a little bit and maybe give that sophomore a lot more reps. He only played for 1 series. he threw the ball 3 times. I think he might have been 0 for 3. And if he did complete one, it was only for a short yardage. But maybe to get this guy going, move him on through the season, but maybe put Reddick at the running back spot. I think that might be an interesting thing for Coach Kilianis to do.
He's a tough runner, and he's not afraid of contact.
No,
he plays defense as well. He had I think a lot of tackles in that Munster game, especially in the opener, and obviously a tough runner like him. But we shall see. We'll talk about their future matchup. But next, coming up on Region Football Weekly, is the Enningenberg Home Improvement Top 10. But we'll step aside here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep. Skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
Hi, I'm Crowd Company's Lantern Man. If you're a contractor, it's my job to make your insurance coverage simple and affordable. Because I know time is money, I'll come to your business. Certificates and bonds are a snap. Wherever you are, whatever business you're in, we've got you covered. As Crowd Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowd Companies, insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
From lighting up Friday Night Football to powering the classrooms that shape the students of Lake County, IBEW Local 697 is proud to support our region's schools and the communities we call home. A career as a union electrician could be your next great move. Your next cap might be a hard hat. IBEW Local 697, powering futures, powering the region.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Back here live from Athletic Performance Factory, Mike Dewan alongside me, Jay Simmons for Region Football Weekly, Jay, Thursday evening. And what's a Thursday evening without breaking down our Enningenberg Home Improvement
That's right, let's do it.
10. Let's do it for the outside looking in. We'll start with the teams just still knocking on the door. A team we just talked about, the Lake Central Indians. Jay, I consider this, and we'll talk about their future matchup later in the show, but arguably, now a 1-1 record, interesting game kind of against Munster, looking at the box score a little bit, then seeing what they did last week. We could probably say this is their last chance, a chance to really kind of prove themselves and potentially stay on this bubble and maybe some room for improvement on this list.
Yeah, definitely. They got pushed around pretty good this past Friday. So, and this was a big team. Surprisingly, they had about 4 or 5 guys going both ways. I was shocked by Grand Rapids. They had I think it was number 6 for them, is a commit to Purdue.
Yeah.
He was all over the field. He was unstoppable. So, plus for you Purdue fans, hope he works out for you.
Another team on our top 10, or the outside looking in, are the Lowell Red Devils. Again, that big win against LaPorte, and an even more exciting matchup going to be at the Boneyard. Jay, we'll talk about that matchup here a little bit later. The Westside Cougars got the win against East Chicago Central in that overtime victory. 28-22 was that final. And a team we could kind of pump the brakes on that is still hanging on by a thread on our bubble. Started off in the season at number 8, and obviously a very, very tough out-of-conference schedule,
100%.
Giving how much, giving kind of the stand, or at least the overall, a new 4A school, a smaller 4A school, we can call it here, Jay, are the Hanover Central Wildcats, who opened up. Those 2 games turned from, I believe it was Wheeler and missing that second week opponent. But it was kind of, a little bit more flexible.
That's right.
And it turns to Michigan City and Bishop Chatard. And
I think they played Bishop Chatard last year.
They might have. They might have.
But they still had Wheeler week 1.
Right.
There's a difference between playing Michigan City and Wheeler.
Going to Ames Field. So, which is kind of why, again, it's been a tough stretch. They've been outscored. I think we're doing the math, and it's a lot to a little, we could say so far. But this is the team, Jay. They have the pedigree. They have that history, and this is the team that can hang around for now once NCC play starts. And that brings you to my next point. Although a very tough out-of-conference schedule where confidence might be taking a little bit of a hit for those players we talked about last week, can this team now with conference play starting, now punching kind of even or maybe even, punching down kind of in some cases, can they still be a threat in the NCC?
Yeah, I think one, they're young. Two, they're they're improving. Their inexperience is going to be looked at through the films, and they're going to definitely now. This is a team that's going to go from week 2 to week 3. They're going to have a good improvement because they played some teams that they're looking up at, and I know they got beat up pretty bad, but hopefully they don't have any injuries. And once you get through those first 2 games and you don't have any injuries, and now you can evaluate and say, okay, here's where we need to improve. That's a huge step for a coach, and it's Coach Bartolomeo, and I'm sure he's going to try and right the ship here in the next couple of weeks. Again, they're young. They lost a lot of guys last year in graduation, so I really think they're going to be hitting it on all cylinders, and boom, let's see what they can do. This is another team, sort of like Valparaiso, where I feel like they're going to be moving forward as the season goes on. They may not put the pieces together right away, but by the time playoffs come around, they'll be ready to go.
And one team I'd say that's just about at the 11 spot, maybe first team out, are the 2-0 Calumet Warriors. You're going to get another dominant win over River Forest, and some new faces on the squad, Jay, that are, again, 2 touchdowns each for Bryce Brandon, John Boyd, who I believe is only a sophomore, and a couple other pieces. Calumet, again, although a new-look team heading into this season, this new era of high school football where you're going to get some new faces that were not on the squad last year. Calumet so far, a big conference win over River Forest, now 2-0.
Yeah, you got to like it.
Yeah, now you got to roll it over.
Yes, and then they got to keep it rolling, and you got a young quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how they do. I mean, it's one of those things where he's going to get better each week, and see, when you start out at 2-0 and you got a young quarterback, and the world is right.
No doubt about it. Moving on to our top 10, starting off at 10, making our way up to 1. Number 10 are the Morton Governors, coming in at 1-1. Again, we talked about a game that was on the Region Sports Network, that 19-20 loss to the host Chesterton Trojans, a game that really went down to the wire. Morton had a chance to win it, and whatever you may say, they call Amari Price might have been short, he may have not been, but the result is in, and it's 19-20 in favor of Chesterton. But Morton, previously they were number 9 last week and don't really take much of a hit, but one thing to kind of look out for, we talked about the injury to Cameron Miller, a Kentucky commit, going to be playing SEC football, and when you have a guy like that on your offensive line who you're hoping that he is okay moving forward, but there's a world that he may not be suited up and ready to go. How impactful is that, where, hey, you got a freshman quarterback in your backfield? Although he's great, he is young, he needs that experience, and when you have a guy like that protecting your blind side, that's a big piece of the puzzle that might be lost for who knows.
That's right. So what you're going to have to do is next man step up. I mean, You're not going to have a guy from Kentucky sitting on the, a guy that's committed to Kentucky sitting on the bench, but you just got to get next man up, coach him up as best you can, get him out there, and do what you can with what you got out there. They're gonna have to try and shift their offense around, see if they, they're going to have to move from maybe moving to that left side a little bit more, get the quarterback out of the pocket a little bit more, and try and get the quarterback on the move if there's some bad pass rushes coming from that spot that they're going to have a vacated Kentucky commit there.
Yeah, right. Make the game easier for your quarterback. And again, They still have some fantastic pieces on the boundary as well as in the backfield. But Morton now next up, they'll play Shepherd from Illinois. This is a team that I believe went 7-3 last year, and they made the 6-8 Illinois State playoffs last year. That game will be played at the Mansion. Jay, a big-time test for Morton, obviously, pending the status, of course, of your SEC offensive lineman. But Morton welcoming in a very solid Illinois team that's kind of even at their class level.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is another Illinois team coming on over. They like to feed up on Indiana teams. Let's see if an Indiana team can put the brakes on all these Illinois teams.
Let's do it, right? But for the 10th ranked Morton Governors, again, they are 1-1 on our poll. Moving up to number 9, a team that is also 1-1, previously 7th ranked. Now they dropped tonight, are the Michigan City Wolves. Jay, you could probably call it a letdown performance against Lafayette Jefferson this past week. 46-29 was the final score. And Jay, this game really got away from them in the first quarter, and
Right.
the Broncos never really looked back.
And it just shows, the class of play in the state of Indiana. You move from one area to another, and Michigan City goes down to Lafayette. I think they're still in the same class, correct?
I
they're
think
fine.
Lafayette Jefferson, they might have moved down now, yeah.
Oh,
I
they
think
might have moved down. I remember
they were 6A for quite some
Right.
time, and then I know like this past fall, because they were in the sectional with like Central, Crown Point.
Okay.
And
No, I do
then
remember that.
Now Penn jumped in that sectional, so I believe Lafayette, they're either 6 or 5A, but nonetheless, it looked like a mismatch here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, the Michigan City's going to have to right the ship, because here we go. They got the Dueling Conference coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do.
Yeah, Trenton Hart had a good game, but
Yes, he
again,
did.
you got to take into account this game was 24-0 after the first quarter. Maybe some numbers may be inflated, but to give credit to Trenton Hart, 21 of 29 for 233 yards and 3 touchdowns, has a very solid start to his senior campaign in his second full season under center. A team that moved up from the 10 spot, going up to 8, are the Wheeler Bearcats, a 33-7 victory at Kankakee Valley. This was a game that was 35-21 at KV last year. They ran all over the Bearcats, and Wheeler so far quite the youth movement. Their quarterback Logan Fox had another fantastic game under center. They got a senior wide receiver, Tyne Vetical, who did some great things once again to keep up his senior campaign. And this is the team, again, to avenge a loss, Jay. I'm sure that helps the confidence there a little bit about this team's outlook moving forward.
Oh, and definitely, some of the seniors are telling these younger guys, hey, we need to step it up this week against KV. We need a victory here. We need to avenge from last year. And they were able to do it. And I think this is Coach Testa is excited about this team, especially with the big win right there against KV.
To avenge a loss is to an NCC team as well. Again, Wheeler has kind of a tough out-of-conference schedule. They punch up. Again, we talked about they had Hanover for quite a few years.
That's right.
And then they would play a KV team that they would often kind of struggle with. And now, again, that first week opponent changed to South Central, and now you take on KV, which they're going through a little bit of rebuilding phase. But Wheeler now all of a sudden, Jay, 2-0, moving up to this team was on the bubble at the start of the year, and now to their defense only giving up 7 points here so
I
far.
think part of it is they lost a bunch of key parts for the offense.
Yeah.
They lost their quarterback, they lost one of their running backs, and a receiver. Venical came back, but all the other pieces were question marks, and that's why we had them. Or I'm sorry, you had them.
We.
Okay, there you go. But the Coach Testa picked it up and put everything together pretty quick in just the first couple weeks. To me, this is looking awesome for Wheeler. You got some real good balance. You had 200 yards, over 200 yards passing, and then you had 161 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's pretty darn good balance right there. That's going to be tough to stop.
Not bad. Logan Fox, the new quarterback for the Wheeler Bearcats, only a junior. Again, 13 of 16, 4 touchdown passes, 213 yards, like you said. Levi Murray as well, a sophomore running back, 26 totes for 161 rushing yards and a score of his own. The 7th rated, moving up here, an interesting spot to stop here, Jay. The lone 0-2 team in the top 10 are the Valparaiso Vikings. Jay, your thoughts on this? A very, very tough out-of-conference schedule. But to see this team still in the top 10, and they were at 6th last week. They take on a Brother Rice team that, although they're going through a kind of a rebuilding phase, maybe to their standards, where do you stand on this, Jay?
If you're going to have an 0-2 team, it's going to be the Vikings in there, because they can put the pieces together, right to ship, get things going. Coach Marshall's a great coach. I think the year they won the state, they lost their first game to Penn and went on to win the state. So if anybody's going to be able to do it, Coach Marshall's going to be able to do it. He's got to do it pretty darn quick, though.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to, I guess, our number 6 team, and we'll kind of talk about a potential question we'll have. Another Duneland team is a 6th-ranked Chesterton Trojans, a team that this is where they started at entering the season. Had that loss to Hobart and responded very, very well, and kind of obviously some teams ahead of them losing some games that kind of propelled Chesterton back up to the 6th spot. But Jay, that kind of brings me, we'll talk a little bit more about Chesterton later in the show, but Three Duneland teams mentioned so far in
That's
this
right.
top 10: Michigan City, Valparaiso, and now Chesterton. Given those that 1 and 2 spots, so we'll talk about that game here later, but Crown Point and Maryville, kind of maybe if they were to hold on to those 2 spots, who's playing that third fiddle? We've seen Valparaiso kind of take that spot, but Chesterton coming off of a pretty good win against Morton. Who do you like going forward in kind of this young
So
season?
you got one tier. You got the Maryville and
Yeah.
Crown Point. Who's the next tier? I think right now, just looking at the scores and the schedule so far, I've got to put Chesterton, even though they've got to figure out how to pass the ball.
Mhm.
You know, they've definitely got to be able to spread the ball around. But I think Chesterton's the top dog in the second tier.
I like that. I like that.
There you go.
And they come in at 6 again, bouncing off that win against Morton, 20-19. Again, still that one-dimensional approach, but Jay, I think from kind of your optimism on this team is they got a sophomore quarterback that
That's
will
right.
only get better through these next 7 weeks and hopefully some change.
That's right. They've got to spread the ball around. But their defense is doing a great job.
No doubt about it. You have to, especially in the Duneland. We'll only see how these teams fare. Those 3, as well as all 8 teams in the Duneland Conference, fare moving forward. The 5th rate, 5 through 1 stay the same. Spoiler alert: this list is already released, so not much of a spoiler. But our 5th rated Griffith Panthers, again, we talked about it, lit up the scoreboard once again against the Munster Mustangs. 58-20 was the final. And Jay, we've talked about kind of these same pieces over these course of the past 2 seasons. You have Ryan Bouillon, you have Jason Quillian, but a new name that kind of stuck up and played very, very well against Munster. A very nice written piece on him was Desmond Nealon, a junior running back who transferred from Lake Central, had 168 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on only 10 carries. Jay, having a piece like that, I mean, their main guy in the backfield from what we saw in week 1 was Ventress Tedder, who had a great game against Highland. But now you have another guy who's, he kind of waiting in the wings. He's
right.
another guy that kind of take the load off of Tedder and take the load off of the passing game as well.
That's right. When you become multi-dimensional out there with 2 different pieces to go to, one guy needs a break after a nice gain. You got another guy coming in, so it's a yin and yang. They got some wind and fire going on right there.
And we talked about the evolution of this Griffith program, especially now as of late. Not only is just from the scheme, obviously how much they put up points, doing it more so through the air, but this is a team that's kind of becoming a force to reckon with. And we talked about this was a Lake Central transfer in Desmond Nealon, and that brings me to my next point: is Griffith kind of becoming one of those programs that it's becoming, let's play some good football here. Hey, we're playing a solid conference in the GSSC, and hopefully, once we kind of put things together, we really want to make a name for ourselves in the 3A class.
That's right, and Griffith could be the hub of some guys transferring in. You've got one from Lake Central, and some more coming. It's only time will tell, and if Coach Mason turns his program around and gets all these pieces clicking and the more you score, the more fun it makes it for everybody.
Mm-hmm. The
more press you get, the more limelight you get, the more attention you get, and Coach Mason putting up all these kinds of points, kids are going to be attracted to that. And Griffith could be that next hub.
Talk about a community you want to
Yes.
play for as a student athlete, to wear that that jersey, wear that thing across the name across your chest, and just a fun place to play. You can only imagine.
Black and
really,
gold.
right? No doubt about it. The 4th rated team on our list is now the 1-1 Andrean 59ers, that 13-0 win over Fort Wayne Lures. That was really just a slugfest between 2 great defenses, and Andrean 2 touchdowns, 2 short-yarded touchdowns from Ethan Reyna, but a team that spent a lot of time at Fort Wayne Lures' backfield. The piece that really did the most damage was another Lake Central transfer in Christian Gavin. 9 tackles, had 3 of them for loss and a sack. Vinny Zupan as well, a upcoming sophomore linebacker. I believe he had 5 tackles for loss. A lot of solid pieces on that Andrean defense, and to see Andrean get that week 2 win, they were trying to avoid their 4th consecutive 0-2 start, which is super hard to believe, but it only attests. I mean, we sound like broken records here, Jay, but it shows how difficult their out-of-conference schedule is.
That's right.
Given how they fare for the rest
And
of
Coach
the season.
Skinner loves it. I've asked him all the time. He goes, man, I love it. I tell him to go out and find the toughest teams you can that's available. He doesn't care where they're at, where they got to go to play, but he loves to play up in class, so that way the schedule actually gets easier as the year goes on.
So now that said, how does the confidence change in this group of Andrean 59ers, where you avoid what seems to kind of be an inevitable 0-2 start,
right.
and then split those first 2 out-of-conference games. And now we got NCC play. We're gunning for that top prize here in the conference.
Definitely going to be a huge boost to their confidence. You know, you come through these 2 weeks, if you have no injuries, nobody hurt, and all of a sudden you get great film on these guys. You can see what they're doing. You know what the expectations can be, and then they can move forward big time.
The third-rated team on our list is another NCC team, the Hobart Brickies, a team that is now 2-0 again, the first time since 2018, coming off of that big-time win against Portage. Alex Tatum had another fantastic game, 10 of 12 passing for 216 total passing yards and 4 total touchdowns. Plenty of receivers on the outside, again, also 5 takeaways. Max Pickett also had a great day in the backfield. I believe they put him at wildcat position a few times, had over 100 yards on the ground. I believe he found the end zone. And Jay, to kind of group these 2 teams together in the 3 and 4 spot, that NCC race is going to be super, super fun. Hobart coming in at our 3 spot. Are they the clear-cut favorite for the NCC? I guess only time will tell.
That's right. You never discount anybody in this conference stepping up and making a run for it. You never know. I mean, we could be talking about Lowell in a few weeks if their new coaching staff puts the pieces together. And Drans seems like they're moving in the right direction, and we know Hobart is. So it's going to be a fun season to watch.
Absolute photo finish between again our 3rd and 4th rated teams, maybe some other teams we're not talking about here now. Again, that's the beauty of conference play, Jay. 0-0, no matter what your first 2 game records say. Our second and our first spots in our Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10. Number 2 goes to the Maryville Pirates, who are now currently 1-1, have a 1-1 record after that loss to Loyola Academy. Jay, just kind of recap on that absolute quality loss. I don't know if you could have much more of a quality loss than Maryville did last week, taking Loyola Academy to the limit, although at the Purple Palace, still super, super impressive. And although they suffered that loss, some teams behind them won, I don't know if it's safe to say to bump them down playing a state powerhouse like Loyola.
Definitely not. And no coach ever wants to hear that phrase, quality loss.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the coaching staff at Maryville is like, oh, no, we don't like that. So we don't like to lose. But you're right. They are a solid number 2 on our poll, and it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out this week.
Things shake out this week indeed as they take on the number 1 team on our Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10, the Crown Point Bulldogs. Got the win over Pike, 21-0. Took that trip down I-65. Jay, something tells me they do not want this to be their last trip down I-65.
That's right. The next trip will be around Thanksgiving. Hopefully the schedule flips so they don't have to go on the road that much.
I think it might now, right? Because 2 years ago they were, again, we're looking way too far ahead here.
That's right.
But they were home for semi-state, and obviously, I think that's why, probably one of the reasons why they wanted to schedule something downstate to 8, just getting used to this drive, but also, hey, this is a quality team in Pike that they had to go through.
Yes, definitely. But you're right. That's one key right there. I'm sure the coaching staff at Crown Point thinks, hey, we need to get these guys used to coming down here and doing this and getting on the bus, getting off the bus, figuring out how they're going to handle themselves. So it's a great job by the coaching staff to do that.
Defensive unit stood tall, forced 3 more turnovers, only giving up 7 points all year, and I don't think that was their first unit. A budding superstar in the backfield, Braden shot 155 rushing yards and 3 scores against Pike. That'll do it for our top 10 list for Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10. We got our games to look ahead to tomorrow night, both on the Region Sports Network and all beyond everything in the Northwest Indiana. But we'll be back here on Region Football Weekly on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 531.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at forajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Calling all current and future homeowners in the Northwest Indiana area. Whether you're buying or selling, Brent Wright is here to make your real estate journey smooth and successful. With years of experience, personalized service, and a deep knowledge of the market, Brent will help you find the perfect place or get the best deal for your property. Call today at 219-406-7195 and take the first step towards your real estate goals. Contact Brent Wright the right way to buy and sell real estate.
Level up your haircut at Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland. With over 30 years of combined experience, walk in today and get treated by some of the best in the business. To book an appointment, call 219-513-9083 or hit up Big Al, Big C, or Axel at the Booksy app or webpage. Head to Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland for a well-executed cut like a well-executed play. Back here on the Region Sports Network, live from Athletic Performance Factory, Mike Dewan, Justin Cole, our producer, and joined alongside me is Jay Simmons. Jay, the weather's dipping. I know I'm kind of letting things go in the hair. I like to keep it warm up here, but Jay, I need a haircut. Tell me a place where I can get one.
I'll tell you what, head up to Level Up Barber Lounge for a well-executed cut, like a well-executed play. Visit Big Al and Big C on Booksy app to make your appointment today. They're located in Highland, just not too far from our studio.
I guess that's fate. I guess I have to,
right.
cut this all up and free up some of the hair, lose a couple pounds up here, Jay. So thank you, big shout out to Level Up Barber Lounge over there in Highland. Moved from they were previously in Griffith, so don't get that twisted. Moved to Highland.
That's right. They're right across the street from the Lantern Man.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right. Perfect. And not too far from our new office. So. But we are live again from Athletic Performance Factory as well. Jay, time to break down our top games of the week, and we'll talk about, after another commercial break, talk about our games on the Region Sports Network. But Jay, one game that sticks out to us, featuring one of our top 10 teams, the 8th-rated Wheeler Bearcats taking on the River Forest Ingots. This was a game that was kind of more of a defensive slugfest last year. Wheeler got the win at River Forest, but Wheeler, a team that's clicking on all cylinders, a team that has a hot start. River Forest going through a little bit of a coaching change and an identity change, but interesting to see how Wheeler can maybe kind of keep up this, both just playing complimentary football all around.
That's right, and like we talked about just a few minutes ago, their offense is clicking like unbelievable. They're bringing a new starting quarterback. The nice thing is for this quarterback, he's got some quality receivers that have been around the program for a couple years, so it makes it a lot easier on that quarterback when you've got some guys that know where to go and how to get open. Makes life a lot easier. And then you got the running back stepping up, new running back for Wheeler Bearcats. Defensively, they're playing well. I'm sure the same sentence that I'm saying, all these guys are playing well on offense.
Yeah.
And Wheeler, they're playing defense too.
Sure.
So they're playing both sides of the ball great.
Someone who has a hot start for Wheeler is Logan Fox, the junior quarterback. In his combined 2 games, 18 of 25 for 364 passing yards, a 7-touchdown to 1 interception ratio. And I think one of the, I wouldn't call it a glaring issue, but Wheeler threw the football a lot last year, and Caleb Klimzak played fantastic.
Right.
But one of the things that maybe was an Achilles heel to his game was there were often times where he threw a couple interceptions, some untimely interceptions, and could have protected the football maybe a little bit better. But so far here, Jay, from what we've seen from the junior, doing a great job of that so far, and to keep that trend going, a big chance to do it against the River Forest defense that has a lot of key pieces coming back.
That's right. And one thing, as a young quarterback, you make sure you want to give him easy reads. Make sure he's looking at his first guy. If he's not open, throw the ball away. So I think that's what Coach Testa's doing. And River Forest, hey, they're going to come out to play, and they're going to bring it to. And I'm sure the new coach is fired up. The first conference game of the season. So he's gonna try and bring the heat on him. I'm sure they're gonna dial up some packages to blitz him, and they're gonna go man to man over the top.
Moving on to two teams that were very, very familiar with each other, longtime NCC opponents, and now kind of revitalized. Although they last played, I believe in 2022 is what I got. These two teams, Griffith, gunning high in the NCC and taking on their third of three straight NCC opponents. The Lowell Red Devils will be coming to town to take on our fifth-rated Griffith Panthers at the Boneyard. And Jay, this game kind of has a little bit more of a billing than usual. If this game was maybe played a few seasons ago, it may not have the hype that it will kind of have heading into this week. Jay, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
We're going to have to see if can Griffith average those 57 points a game. I don't think that's going to happen against the Lowell defense. I think they are going to try and blitz a lot. Lowell loves to do that, at least in the last coaching staff. They love to just go man-to-man and blitz some guys. They used to rush 5 and 6 guys every pass play. So it'll be interesting to see how this new staff does that. And I really think Griffith can they handle the physicality of Lowell? From what I've talked to people around town, they say this is one of the biggest offensive lines they've had in quite a while.
Super, super interesting. Yeah. This was a series that dates back for quite some time. These two teams, Griffith leads the all-time series 52-38, and 3 ties, I believe. They last played again in 2022, like I mentioned. But Lowell has had Griffith's number as of late. There was a forfeit in 2020 that resulted in a Griffith victory, but not including that one, Lowell has won the previous 7 renditions, hoping to make it 8. You mentioned Lowell. I think the key factor here is keeping that Griffith offense off the scoreboard and slowing them down, right? Because this is a team that's still bringing in a coach like Casey McKim that does a lot of running the football, had a lot of that at New Prairie. A team that can really try and keep the game at their own tempo and not like fireworks like we've seen from Griffith so far.
Lowell really has to do long, sustained drives, keep the ball away from that offense, that high-powered offense of Griffith, and then try and get Griffith into third and long situations, force them to be one-sided, where if they're 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, they can be multi-dimensional and either run or pass. So try and nail them to one side of their offense, passing or running.
And we'll move to our final matchup, something that although Lowell and Griffith may live up to the billing in terms of how exciting that looks on paper, I don't think you could really hold a flame to this 2v1 matchup. The Maryville Pirates will travel to take on the Crown Point Bulldogs for their home opener. Jay, not much more could be said about this game, but we cannot wait to see how this one kind of plays out.
Well, and the Crown Point's playing great regular season football, even though they're playing great all the time, but they really have been dominating in the dueling conference. I'm trying to look here and see if they've resulted in 3 straight outright dueling conference championships.
And they've won the last 3 games against Maryville, so this game kind of, paints a picture for us.
I remember interviewing Coach Bazia a few years back, and one of the things was his first year they lost to Maryville pretty convincingly, and then they came back and won by a field goal at the last second. He pulled the kids into the locker room and goes, "Look at the difference between last year and now this year. This program's headed in the right direction," and ever since then they've never looked back.
And we talked about now, all of a sudden they have the target on their back, and now for Maryville's sake, this is a team that through 2 weeks of the season, Jay, they're still gunning for that target, especially in the Duelman, which has been a conference of Crown Points for these past 3 seasons. But Maryville, something about them this year, it seems like they're playing, they arguably, through these first 2 weeks, although the 1-1 record, I think a case could be told that this team has looked a little bit more impressive than the home team in this one.
They got a swagger about them this year that I haven't seen in quite a while. And it's that confidence just comes into you, and when you get into a tight game like this one's going to be, that really pays off in the long run.
Of course, we'll have highlights, we'll have plenty of videographers, and definitely updates from a studio presence, but you won't be at that game. What do you like if you were to give maybe a prediction? I don't ask you for many.
All right,
this is a good one.
All right, I'm going to go Crown Point 28, Maryville 24.
I like it. I'll hold you to it.
All right, we'll see.
A big game. Again, we got 3 more games to talk about on the Region Sports Network, but plenty of more games. Again, we'll have much more, studio coverage. Of course, our Strack and Vanto hometown scoreboard. To find all of these games, of course, come tomorrow night. But we're not done here from the Athletic Performance Factory. One more segment with 3 games on the Region Sports Network tomorrow night. This is Region Football Weekly on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town. The Athletic Performance Factory is Northwest Indiana's premier athletic training center. The 40,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility features batting cages, a sand training room, a new outdoor turf infield, and so much more. Check out the facility for one of their daily classes at 3150 45th Street in Highland. Interested in signing up for team workouts or individual lessons? Check out their website at trainapf.com or contact them at 219-750-1087. Athletic Performance Factory, where athletes are made.
When it comes to your money, than just numbers on a page, you deserve someone who sees the full picture. Meet Mark Machnick, one of Northwest Indiana's most trusted accounting professionals. Whether you're running a business, planning for retirement, or just trying to make sense of tax season, Mark Machnick, located in Highland, makes it simple, personal, and believe it or not, painless. Contact Mark and his team today at 219-595-5290. Mark Machnick, CPA.
Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso is a leader in athletics apparel and equipment sales. With in-house production including screen printing, trophies, embroidery, and more, Blythe's can help you to create the perfect look. For more information, visit them online at teamblythes.com. Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso, where the athletes shop.
Back here live from Athletic Performance Factory, Jay Simmons, Mike Dewan, Region Football Weekly. One last segment, Jay.
All right,
3 games on the Region Sports Network. 3 Duneland games. Cannot wait. The first game we'll talk about is our 7th-rated Valparaiso Vikings going to LaPorte to take on the LaPorte Slicers. 2 teams looking to really kind of bounce back in this one. Jay, Valparaiso, we talked about 0-2, still number 7 in our poll. LaPorte, after a big rivalry win against New Prairie in the opening week, have now fallen to 1-1 after a tough loss to Lowell. Jay, what do we expect from this one? Valparaiso, a lot of success against those Slicers,
Right.
but a tough place to play in LaPorte.
Definitely a very tough place. The thing that's going to help Valpo is they've really got to get, now all of a sudden they're playing somebody they know. And in the first couple weeks is, Penn is a regular team they always have on their schedule. Week 2 wasn't, so this is going to be a huge thing for them. Can they right the ship is the question.
Yeah.
And I think they can. If they get the passing game going a little bit, get the run game, and get that defense, making some solid tackles and staying with their assignments, I think they can come out of victory on this one.
Big bounce back opportunity for Valparaiso. For LaPorte, the hosts, kind of a different story compared to Valpo. Yes, they play a team that they do know, but hey, you play a team that's had a lot of success in New Prairie in the opener, and then you drop a game against Lowell. Lowell's kind of had their number as of late. Now you take on a team you do know, but looking at the history, again, 12 in a row for Valparaiso over LaPorte. How do they respond now entering, coming back home and taking on a Valparaiso team that is as hungry as ever to get a win in their win column?
Well, LaPorte's going to have to, play a little bit out of their character. They're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. They're going to have to move some players around. If they're not able to move the ball offensively on the ground against Lowell, it's going to be that much harder against Valparaiso. So really, they're going to have to open it up a little bit and maybe take some chances. Maybe try an onside, do a fake punt, fake field goal, something where it's out of the norm and you can catch Valparaiso sleeping a little bit.
2 teams definitely looking to find those playmakers and find some bright spots moving forward into, again, what will be always a meat grinder of a Duneland conference schedule. That game will be at 7 o'clock. Again, that game will be audio only, live from LaPorte. We'll have that on our Region Sports social media pages tomorrow as usual. Our second of 3 games on the Region Sports Network, Jay, a game that you will be at, so I won't be asking for many predictions in this one, but a battle between the Indians in the Duneland Conference. Portage takes on Lake Central at Lake Central. That game will be at 7 o'clock with live video coverage. Jay, 2 teams that are really trying to grasp some momentum, and it's a friendly start in terms of, hey, they're not going to play in those top 2 teams I mentioned. They're facing each other in the Duneland, but 2 teams that are really trying to scrape out a victory in this one.
Yeah, the red versus the blue Indians here. It's going to be a good game. Lake Central definitely has the upper hand here, but it's just because they are able to not have turnovers offensively. And defensively, last week, they were able to create some turnovers and score off of them. So I definitely going to leaning towards the blue Indians. Portage is just, it seems like they're on a struggle bus, and it's going to be a few more weeks before they can right the ship. They've got to figure out what their character is, what their the team personality is going to be. for them. So it's going to be a tough move forward for them.
And the turnover battle, especially, Jay, we talked about Lake Central forced, had scored a defensive touchdown. I think they did kind of the same in week one. Portage, on the other hand, 5 giveaways last week. How, as a coaching staff, how would you maybe approach this week in the, hey, we cannot be giving short fields to a what we could call maybe a struggling offense at this time heading into week 3 like Lake Central?
Well, the thing they need to do is make sure that they're running plays, pass plays, something for easy reads, something the quarterback can get rid of the ball quickly. Lake Central didn't have much of a pass rush last week, so they've got to get rid of the ball quickly, something quick, something easy for the quarterback to get some confidence. And the same thing, with the running backs, make sure they're holding on to the ball. I'm sure they've been practicing holding on to the ball all week this week.
And that's always like just a brutal week of practice.
That's
It's
right.
like, really, Coach, we're doing this, but it's going to be something like this where Lake Central, especially, they're going to be wanting that momentum too, especially when you're at home at the Burial Grounds. Our third and final game, our lone top 10 matchup on the Region Sports Network, a very intriguing game at Ames Field as the Michigan City Wolves, coming in at 9 in our poll, host the 6th-ranked Chesterton Trojans. City, they want that bounce-back game as well after falling flat against Lafayette Jefferson. Chesterton hoping to keep up now their title of, hey, we're a team in the Duneland that we want to try and kind of gun for that top spot and maybe be, outside of Crown Point and Maryville, the top 2 teams in our poll. We want to be that team as well to
That's
get up
right.
there and make some noise.
The winner of this game could be the number 2 tier first team right here, for week 1 in the Duneland Conference. The fun thing about this game is it's going to be really 2 contrasting styles, obviously. You've got the ground and pound of Chesterton, and then you've got the vertical, horizontal game going of Michigan City. Are they going to be able to throw the ball over the top? Will the quarterback have enough time? These are some questions that are going to be answered tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at just how these 2 teams, looking at their previous matchups, I mean, Chesterton looking at Morton and Hobart, where they played in their first 2 weeks. 2 very balanced offenses that have, again, some talented backfield as well as some talented guys out wide. They might be a little bit more suited, and you can kind of comment on this, Jay, for Michigan City offense. While Michigan City, you don't really see teams run the ball this much like Chesterton does, especially with the brute in the backfield like Andrew Bovin.
Yeah, and one thing is that Chesterton played a team that's got a lot of vertical speed in Morton last week, so they're going to be ready for it defensively. So is Chesterton going to try and play some man? Are they going to try and blitz a little bit? Are they going to mix it up? Are they going to just, lay back in zone and force some mistakes by the quarterback? Some more questions, but it's going to, I don't know. I think Chesterton's got a little bit of an edge here just because if they can keep the ball to Gabea and grind it out and stay out of 3rd and long situations and do the 6-minute drives, they can control the ball and the tempo of the game.
So that said, I was going to ask your score predictions for this one. 2 contrasting styles.
Yes.
One thing that might be a little bit, given their previous opponents, not easier, but something you've maybe seen before and could scheme up for a little bit more defensively compared to Michigan City, where, hey, you got to buckle up because, they're going to be running the football and they're going to try to, whether you like it or not. But
I'm going to keep it low scoring.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 14-10 Chesterton.
Trojans go to Ames Field and take care of business. Again, 3 games on the Region Sports Network. Valparaiso, the 7th-rated team in our poll. They take on LaPorte. That will be audio only. Again, all 3 games at 7 o'clock. Portage takes on Lake Central. You'll hear Jay Simmons on that one. And a top 10 match with the 6th-rated Chesterton Trojans take on the number 9 in our poll, the Michigan City Wolves. Jay, any final thoughts? Week 3, super, super hard to believe, and at conference play now, starting in the Duneland and a couple other conferences as well.
My really irritation for this week is my favorite team's playing Friday night, so I won't be able to see them. They're playing in Brazil. I'm sorry, I'm a Chargers fan. I know it's crazy. Why is somebody from Indiana and a Chargers fan? It goes back a long time. They used to throw the ball all the time. They were pretty much the only team that opened it up and threw the ball a lot. And I played tight end in high school. They threw it a lot to Kellen Winslow.
Yeah.
And that was my guy.
Was their quarterback Fouch, right?
Yeah, Fouch was in that era.
Fouch.
Yeah. So I'm a little irritated about the NFL for this week.
So you may or may not be calling a game, and at least maybe the score updates.
I'll look at the score updates. I like
go.
to keep my nose on the field, though.
Good man. Well, that'll do it from us here from Athletic Performance Factory and Region Football Weekly. For Justin Cole, our producer, for Jay Simmons, my always my partner here on RFW and all the RSN family. That'll do it from us. Rest up. We'll have plenty more for you tomorrow night on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.